Welcome everyone to the Cut Calls Not Connections Simplifying Patient Communication presentation. Thank you for joining us today. We look forward to your questions throughout the presentation. You can enter them by clicking on the Q&A icon on the top of your screen. My name is Linda Park, and it is my pleasure to be with you today to introduce Sean Barker. Sean is Ifinity's Patient Engagement Product Manager and has been with Ifinity since 2019. He has more than 20 years of experience supporting state and local government in developing healthcare technology solutions. Sean holds the Bachelor of Science in Management Information System from California State University, Sacramento. In his spare time, he enjoys golfing and hiking with his wife and daughter. Welcome, Sean.
Thank you, Linda. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Let's jump right in. Today, we're going to cover why patient-centered communications matter. We'll talk a little bit about the friction behind phone tag, implementing the best tools for patient convenience, and then I'll do a live demo of some of our solutions, and then we'll leave time at the end for Q&A. So why patient-centered communication matters? Today's patients expect more than just quality care. They expect convenience and efficiency. So like if we think about our everyday lives, we can order something today online and have it delivered generally same day or next day. And really throughout that entire process, we can check the status, we can receive notifications throughout the whole journey. And that level of real-time communication is expected everywhere, including healthcare. So let's review what patients are saying. 64% of patients are willing to switch to providers for a more digital experience. That's nearly half of the patients that expect regular communication and easy access to information. And 71% of patients wish their healthcare experiences were as easy as experiences in other areas of their life, like online shopping. So what creates the most phone tag in your week? We recently surveyed practices just to find out like what are the most incoming calls that you receive. And I don't think it's surprising, like the top three is generally going to be scheduling questions about insurance or their order status. And that order status is a big one because anytime anybody orders anything, they want to know where's my order. And then that's followed up by getting a copy of their RX and then pricing, payment, or receipt information. So those are common things that come in and can take a lot of time, either that phone tag with your patients back and forth. And really what we want to do is like, how do we cut the phone tag and not lose that connectivity, those connections? We've all been there, right? It can be frustrating for staff and patients when you're trying to get a hold of somebody and you're playing phone tag and just trying to get an answer to a simple question. And so practices want to offer great communication, set expectations with patients, and empower them to be able to get the information that they need. Here's another important data point. Practices who embrace text messaging see up to 38% drop in no-shows, with appointment attendance increasing 67%. At that point, customers feel engaged, and I would say even text messaging often feels more personalized as a patient because it feels like you're actually communicating with somebody there. And at the end of the day, it really comes down to proactive communication. So we're looking for opportunities to answer questions before they're even asked. And so when we talk about that patient-centric tools, we want to ensure that you stay connected, empower patients to get their information from anywhere, really. We want you to stay profitable, and to do that is to help your staff members reclaim their time, really focus on the patients that are in the office. And then stay ahead by reducing any friction at checkout or post-visit, meaning making that experience as fluid as possible. And so, with the right patient-centric tools, we're going to show you how you can stay connected, stay profitable, and stay ahead with Ifinity Encompass integrated solutions. Now, some of you may be asking, well, what's Encompass, right? It's Ifinity's all-in-one platform that goes beyond just practice management and electronic health records. It provides core functionality that every practice needs, and that includes practice management, health record system, patient engagement, and then analytics. So the first solution we'll talk about is about Ifinity Patient Navigator. It helps build trust and empowers patients. No logins required, provides 24/7 access to prescriptions, receipts, and order status updates. And as the way that this works is as soon as you put an order in process within our practice management system, the patient will have access to their order status and a copy of their receipt. The system will proactively send an email and or text based on their communication preferences. And the patient will also have access to their RX as soon as they're available within the practice management system. So soon we'll offer online payments where patients can also pay outstanding balances online for their convenience. And I think the benefit of this solution helps with the RX support of the FTC regulations of providing patients access to their prescriptions online. So a couple little stats to talk about here. Practices that have implemented this, we're seeing about 40% of the usage occurring after hours, which is fantastic. Patients are able to self-serve and take care of themselves. We're seeing practices save well over $320 per location in cost avoidance for patients being able to self-service to get their RX receipt and order status. And if you total that up, that's nearly $4,000 a year in cost avoidance. And then providers like Dr. Moose have spoken up and said, hey, it's nice to give staff time to input the orders throughout the day, and then patients have immediate access to that RX order status and receipt without having to be emailed. So some great time savings that's associated with that. The next product that we'll go through and talk about is our Encompass Message from Eyefinity. It's an advanced version of our existing patient notification solution. So it provides the secure and reliable messaging that we had before, but in addition, it also provides two-way texting, and also we support messaging from text, voice, and email. It offers flexibility for your team to reach patients on the channel that they prefer. And one of the quotes as we were doing research to implement some of this functionality was one of the practices that said, the single most important tool that you can have is text engagement. Period, in the story. They've seen a 30% growth since having that and just being able to connect with their patients. Another data point is the fact that 95% of patients report they feel more connected to their care team after receiving text messages. So again, when we talk about the solution, it comes with automated reminders that sync directly with our appointment calendar to reduce no-shows and appointment gaps. We provide custom templates that allow you to customize the reminders and updates and keeping messages consistent yet personal, and the personalization that you really want with your practice. And then the two-way text will minimize that back and forth, and updates through requests so that your staff's easily able to answer those questions at their own time and leisure along with your patients without having to chase messages and trying to go back and forth with phone tag. And then we also have the ability to send targeted group messages. So especially in the current climate where there's some different storms and cold weather fronts, you're able to notify your patients if you have to close your store. Now I'm going to go through and show you a demo of a couple of these solutions that we have. But the first thing I'm going to do is kind of simulate some of the setup. So we're going to go through Patient Navigator first. And just want to show you the ease here that you have of setting this up. So nothing else that you have to do than your normal orders in the system. So once you have an order and you process that order, as soon as you hit the process order now, the system's automatically going to go out, and within 15 minutes, it's going to send a text or email to the patient based on their demographic communication preferences. It's going to thank them for their order. It's going to give them the information. And in the email, it'll have that track order link, which will navigate to Patient Navigator to show them that order status. And if they decide to receive text messages, they'll also receive a text message that'll have a hyperlink to that. So I'm going to switch over and show you the experience that we have here for this. Let me just update a couple things real quick. So the first thing I'm going to show you is from the practice view is you're going to see the invoiced orders here, and anything that's in process or after that status will show up for the patient to view. The other thing I want to show you is the RX history. And so with the RX, I have an example here of a couple of valid RXs, and as soon as they're available on this screen, they're available in Patient Navigator. So there's nothing you have to push or anything you have to do. You just run business as normal. System takes care of the rest of that. I do have a couple of expired RXs, and those won't show up, so we'll walk through that. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to switch, and this is your patient view. So they'll either receive that email, they'll receive that text to click that link. But what we also encourage practices to do, and this is a demo site that we have set up of our new Eyefinity digital marketing solution, is we would encourage you very easily on the website to have a check order status, get your receipt on there. So I'm going to click that. Very simple, no login needed. Just simple information, especially with the order status. We don't need too much information. We're not displaying any PII or PHI information at this point. And so those orders that I showed you before in our system are all available online with that same status. So I have one in progress. I have what it would look like if it was ready for pickup. And then again, another one in process. And if there was a delay for any reason based on the time, that would also show up to the patient. Now they do have access to view the invoice here. So if somebody was calling or wanted to get access to their receipt, they can do that online. As you know, our receipts have personal information on them and PII and PHI. So we do ask for two-factor authentication. And this is using the communication preferences on the patient. So the options that they have available are there. So I'm just going to type in this code that I received via text. And what it'll do is it'll pull back a copy of that receipt that they have. Again, we have PII and PHI information, so it's important for them to do that two-factor authentication before we display that. The next thing I'm going to show, close out of there, is to get a copy of that RX. Again, simple link here. We do ask for a little bit more information because, again, this is PII, PHI information. Again, it's going to ask me for that two-factor authentication. And this information, as I mentioned, is coming from the demographics within your patient's profile. And I'm going to enter that. And again, we're showing, as I mentioned before, I have two valid prescriptions and 2 expired. It's only going to show the 2 valid ones. If for any reason a patient did log in and they didn't have any valid prescriptions, then we have a note there that there's no valid prescriptions on file and they should schedule an appointment. And again, this is coming back with the RX that's available within the practice management system, doctor signature. Again, this is a test case. There'd be an image of your practice up there at top. So super convenient, super easy, as you can see, a lot of limited friction from a patient to be able to access information online. If you do have the ability to sell frames or browse frames or contact orders, then we display these icons that would then link to that the patient would have access to view that online. If you don't, then those don't display. And this is mobile friendly as I kind of shrink that in to show what that usability looks like. So again, very simple solutions there. I'm going to close out of this and I'm going to transition over to your practice's view when it comes to the admin tools for Patient Navigator and Encompass Message. From the menu, there'll be an option here of, I'll start off with Patient Navigator. And when selecting that, it brings you into that solution. It will show you the dashboard that we have available. And the dashboard shows you of the different order status notifications that have gone out. And if you have both Encompass Message and the Encompass Message and Patient Navigator, it'll show all of that within the dashboard. I think what's great about this solution is not only is it showing the success, and the failures are only here from our test environment, but what's great about this is when it comes to RX lookup, it's not as much of the success as it is about the failure. Coming out here, you can see that a patient tried to access this and it failed based on information mismatch. This gives you direct insight to contact that patient directly and help them to resolve those issues as far as their login and access. If I go back to the dashboard, there's a cost avoidance area here. And this is based on feedback we received from practices that as they're trying to resolve issues or communicate or work with their patients, they find the average time of a phone call is about 6 minutes. Now, this is adjustable. If you wanted to play with these, you might say, hey, on average, it's 4 minutes, or hey, on average, it's 8 minutes. And then the cost is really what, employee cost per hour that you're paying. And so you have the ability to change that. But what it's showing is that it may not reduce the staff that you have on hand to resolve these questions from your patients. But what it does show is that all those things take time, and getting time back to your staff to focus on other things is very beneficial to the practice. And so again, opportunities for you to review that. I'm going to jump into, again, this admin area here is for Patient Navigator and Encompass Message. So I'm going to jump into the communication area here. One thing I'm going to show first is there's a couple features that we have. One is this landline area, and what this indicates is that we tried to text a patient, but it was actually a landline that doesn't receive text. So we'll monitor those, and in the future we'll course correct to try to make sure that we're texting patients based on the numbers in the system. The other area we have is restricted words. We heard from some practices that said, hey, I don't want, inappropriate words to be sent in text messaging. We also had another one that said, I don't want anybody typing discount. I don't want to offer anything that we can't promise. And I'll show you examples of that in a minute. But in our communication area, we have a two-way text area that's displayed here. If there's a message that's been received that hasn't been viewed, it'll have a green dot. There's also a little indicator up here at the top of when a message has been received but not viewed. And if I do this drop down, it'll show that information there. And then from here, you'll be able to communicate back and forth with your patients. And there's a couple features that you have. You get to see as your staff's replying who it's from. We've also created an area of predefined responses that you can have so your staff's not having to type messaging back and forth, or you can standardize what you want. I'll show you how to create these and manage these templates in just a minute. But there might be an area of where you're either running behind, you want to get insurance information. These are all things that you can customize, but simply select it. You can make modifications here if needed, and then you send that message. And one of the things I mentioned earlier is the restricted word. I will give you a discount today. And if I try to send that, it's going to give me message contains restricted words of discount. So again, out of the box, there's nothing in there, but you have the ability to change that and make sure things aren't going across. And then that green mark that's there shows that there's a message that hasn't been reviewed. Again, I can type a message back, or I can select one of the messages that we have here. So pretty simple solution, great to interact with patients, see what's there. We're coming out with a feature in a few weeks of where you can flag it. So if I see this message or maybe this one that, hey, what time does your office open today? And I'm not able to respond to that right away, but I viewed it, I can flag it to come back to that later. I'm going to step through some of the other features we have. We also have email communication so that you can go ahead and send a text or an email to a patient based on templates that you have. I'll just select a simple one like happy birthday to show that, where it's a predefined message, and the system will look up these placeholders in order to send that message to that patient, then you can send that right along. The next area is the group message, which I talked about, that, hey, if there's a message we need to send out because of the weather and we need to send a note to our patients, you can pick patients that have an appointment from this time period. Then you can do an office closure template, and that'll get that message created, and then you're able to send that from there. And then there's also an email format for that too. Where I want to move to is into the area of where we talk about the templates that are available that you get to manage. So this is an area where you get to customize messages. Out of the box, we'll give you the defaults that we find to be the most successful with our practices. And so from an appointment reminder, you have the ability to go out here and you can determine the type of messages that you want. You want to send a text message, you want to send voice, email, or you can enable or disable those. Again, we have default messaging here, but you can modify this that meets your practice's needs. But out of the box, you're ready to go and have those available. The other one that we talked about too was having those pre-saved replies available here. And so again, like an insurance check or running behind schedule, you're able to modify this that meets the needs for your practice as far as how you want to communicate that to your patients. Patient communication history is the ability to come out and look at a full, complete history of the notifications and messaging that you sent like within the last 30 days. So as you can see from the patient, I had sent great thank you, but the office had said it's at 10 a.m. Look forward to seeing you. You get to see that kind of conversation going back and forth. But you also have access to that history within that patient. By just scrolling up, you can kind of see the different messages that have gone back and forth. And then notification history is really about the automated notifications that go out. So you get to see a history available upon that. And that's super helpful as far as if you want to see messages that have gone out or if there's been some misunderstanding between patients going back and forth. So again, very simplified solutions, great convenience. We try to make it as easy as possible for you to communicate with your patients along the way. And provide some great opportunities to either send links for them to self-service along the way with Patient Navigator or communicate with practice or patients along the way. So let me go back into our slides here. So connection, convenience, and efficiency are really key. Within integrated solutions like Eyefinity Patient Navigator and Encompass Message, you can provide experiences your customers expect. You can cut call time, and you really get to simplify that patient communication with the all-in-one Eyefinity Encompass platform. If you'd like to learn more about our add-ons, you can scan the QR code here on the screen. You can request a demo and connect with Courtney Heron to really get started. I'm going to turn it now over to Linda for any questions that you might have. And then I also have our patient engagement business analyst, Lindsay Riffenberg, to kind of help with any lookups or questions you have. Linda?
Perfect. Thank you so much, Sean. And just a reminder to everybody, if you have a question, you can enter it using the Q&A icon on the top of your screen. We do have one question. Do you have eFax?
We don't have eFax yet, but that's a request that we've heard from many patients in practice, or not patients, but practices. And so it's an opportunity that we're looking at towards, I'd say maybe the end of the year.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Let's just give it a few more seconds to see if we have any more questions come in. Okay, it looks like we don't have any more questions today. So with that, I would like to thank you, Sean, for taking the time to go over ways to better connect with patients and for sharing information about Eyefinity Patient Navigator and Encompass Message. And also thank you to everyone on the line for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us today. This concludes our presentation.